Hello YouTube, Film Buff 06 here. As a belated tribute, admittedly belated tribute, to the late great James Avery, who is best known for not only providing the voice of Shredder in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon series, but also is much better known for his role alongside Will Smith as Uncle Phil Banks in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, who sadly died early last month, aged 68. May the man rest in peace. I am going to be doing a review / rant on the 2004 Hilary Duff movie, Raise Your Voice, which is directed by Sean McNamara, the guy responsible for directing two not-so-great direct-to-video Casper movies, specifically A Spirited Beginning and Casper Meets Wendy, as well as the god-awful Bratz the movie from a few years later. Originally this film was going to be much more serious and mature, a much more serious and mature one, set in New York, plus Evan Rachel Wood and Jonathan Jackson were the original choices to portray Hilary Duff and Oliver James's characters. But unfortunately, they and original director James Heyman left the project due to production changes, and I could clearly see why they did this. The story of this film, which seems to be ripping off the 80s cult classic Fame for some reason, centers on this young teenage 16-year-old girl named Terry Fletcher, played by Hilary Duff, who has big dreams of becoming a singer for some reason, but when her older brother, dies in a car accident despite suffering from anxiety attacks in the process, she decides to follow her dream by spending the summer at a prestigious performing arts school in Los Angeles with a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to win a $1 million scholarship and make her dreams come true. That's pretty much the story of this fucking movie in a nutshell. Now, what did I think of Raise Your Voice? Well, firstly, I know I'm not in the right demographic for this movie. As a young boy, or rather man, this does not appeal to me whatsoever, but it will obviously appeal to teenage girls who don't know any better, or rather have zero IQ. And secondly, I don't get Hilary Duff's appeal, to be quite honest. Neither was I a fan of hers to begin with. I know that she was the Lindsay Lohan of her generation, you know, thanks to her role in the Disney Channel show Lizzie McGuire, as well as other roles in stuff like A Cinderella Story, The Perfect Man, Agent Cody Banks, and the two Cheaper by the Dozen films with Steve Martin, just to name a select few. But if I were to be perfectly honest, not only can't she act, but she also can't even sing to save her life. In my opinion, I think Duff's performance in this movie is hugely overrated and is just as wooden and talentless as Kristen Stewart out of Twilight. I mean, even her attempts at conveying any sort of emotion seem quite forced and rather bland. Other than Duff, most of the acting in this movie, it isn't all that good. I mean, Rita Wilson and Rebecca de Mornay especially are totally wasted in their respective roles as, you know, the mother and aunt. The mother and aunt, yeah. John Corbett as the hippie music teacher, he does a really bad impression of Jeff Bridges as the dude in The Big Lebowski. Oliver James, who plays the boyfriend here, is just as bland as a piece of cardboard. Keith David's performance as the father is so one-dimensional that the only semblance of character development that he has is that throughout the movie he is seen with nothing but a toothpick in his mouth, you know, like that. And we don't even get, you know, a justified explanation as to why he is so overprotective of his daughter. Jason Ritter, who plays the brother, I think his name is Paul, looks completely out of his depth, and we don't get to learn anything about this character to justify the emotional impact he is supposed to have on the main character, her family, and her audience, and the audience. The only best performance in the movie is, of course, from James Avery himself, who only appears in a cameo as the music school principal, and he does a very good job for the 5 minutes of screen time he is given. Just other than that, the story is just nothing but a generic, boring, unoriginal, and predictable as hell mess. The script sounds like it was written by an 8-year-old. The dialogue ranges from cheesy to clunky. The characters are one-dimensional, cliched, and not very interesting, even in the slightest. Sean McNamara cannot direct his way out of a fridge if his life depended on it. The score, which was composed from inside a church, by the way, according to the special features on this DVD, it was lazy, and the editing is an absolute joke. Plus, the movie is a mind-numbingly tedious and boring 107 minutes long, which is perhaps 20 minutes too long for what is supposed to be a teen movie aimed at kids, which, by the way, I have no problem with whatsoever. Just overall, Raise Your Voice is not one of the absolute worst movies I've ever seen in my life. It's better than Twilight, but it comes pretty close. To those of you who are actually serious about watching a film like this, my advice to you would be this. Please go and watch a somewhat decent or better, or even better teen movie. Something like Clueless, Grease, or even some of the John Hughes comedies from the 80s, whether it be Ferris Bueller's Day Off, 16 Candles, or even The Breakfast Club. You are gonna have, you will have a much better time with those films than you will with this piece of silly garbage. To those of you who insist on watching stuff like this, just go ahead. I'm not stopping you. Go and live in your own little world, as it were. My rating for Raise Your Voice is going to be a 2 out of 10. And all that is left to say about this movie is, sorry, Miss Hilary Duff. I'm sorry, Miss Hilary Duff. You know, that cheesy smile is not going to work on me, I'm afraid. Fuck you. Now, feel free to leave a comment in the section below and let me know your thoughts on this film and Hilary Duff. Plus, feel free to subscribe to my channel. And until my next video, in which I am going to be reviewing The Holiday with Cameron Diaz, Jude Law, Kate Winslet and Jack Black, do take care everyone, and goodbye.